Danny Crisp here, 2019's Instructor of the Year here at Prime, and I'm reaching out to let you know I've created 10 quick episodes to help you become a professional driver. Or, if you've already got your CDL, to help you with some of the day-to-day operations. Now, these videos cover a wide variety of content, not just CDL prep, but also things that are going to help you in that OTR phase of your drive. Now, I'm really excited to be releasing these videos as kind of a compendium to my current students, my previous students, but also hopefully future students as well, to give them the resources they need to get the most out of their drive, the most out of that CDL, and to better their best. So hopefully this is going to be meaningful content that's going to help to accelerate your knowledge base and get you out on the road to success sooner. You know, do yourself a huge favor, make the call to Prime, find your path.
Do you want to change your life? Do you want to be your best? Tired of having all that strife? Now's the time to reinvest. Pick up the phone and make a call. It's your time to give your all. Change your life, you know you can. Sing it out. CDL, yeah, my man. CDL, alright, dude. CDL, now's the time. CDL, yeah, go call Prime. CDL, oh yeah, CDL, make the move. CDL, no time to wait. Get on up and let's move some freight.
Okay, one quick thing about Prime's referral program before we get started. Now, Prime is such an amazing company at rewarding hard work. It's truly incredible the way that Mr. Lowe and the whole team share the success of this company from the top to the bottom in every phase. And one way that they do that is through the referral program. Every incoming driver is given an amazing opportunity to share in the potential wealth of their new career with a current driver for Prime at no personal cost to themselves. All they have to do is tell their recruiter the name and the driver code of a current driver for Prime. Now, if you already know a driver for Prime, please make 100% certain that you get their name and their driver code in. It is vital to the business model here to reward excellence and share in the success. In that regard, if you don't have a current friend or relative that's driving for Prime, for every new applicant that uses my code, I will personally donate $100 to Springfield's local food banks. They say that $1 equals 4 meals, so you'd be contributing 400 meals to Springfield's local families. That's pretty incredible. Remember, we're all in this together. Make sure to message me directly that you've used my code. That way I can track it and get that donation in. You can connect with me at any time on the information here on this YouTube page or through my Instagram. Now, let's roll up our sleeves and get to work. Okay, in that last section we focused on our backing, and we were going to get into some of the more practical backing that you're going to do out in the real world, truck stops, shippers, receivers, things like that. But before we get into that, let's move into that final section of our CDL test. That's going to be our drive section. So first we're going to go over some basic pointers that you're going to want to use on that drive section, and then we're going to clarify those with some footage out in the real world or by using our handy dandy dry eraser board here. So let's get to work. Okay, so that very first pointer that I always like to talk to students about is making sure that we are making those turns appropriately for this combination vehicle. You have to remember you are 70 foot long for the first time as an operator, and you've got a lot of footage that you need to be accounting for. So the first thing I coach students on is make sure you get out before you get over. This turn needs to account for these back trailer tires getting all the way up before we make our cut. If we make our turn with our steers right here, what's going to happen is these trailer tires are going to off track and they're going to take a shortcut, any shortcut they can possibly take to get to those steers. And they're going to drive over anything that's in their way. So we have to be very mindful of those. Make sure that we get all the way up before we get over. Now we've got some great footage of this left turn with 2 turn lanes. We always want to be in that outermost lane. Let's cut to that footage.
Okay, as we can see, we're pulling forward, staying centered and continuing straight like we want to go into the lane in front of us. When our nose gets about halfway, we start our cut, staying wide to the right, keeping that right steer as close to the curb as possible. And we're watching our inside convex on the left to watch that trailer to keep it out of any trouble. Once that trailer follows us into the lane, we cancel our signal. Okay, so as we saw there, we kept our tire very close to that curb, and we kept it close all the way through. It's very important to stay wide through the turn. A lot of early drivers, they'll get wide initially, but cut back in too soon. So make sure you're keeping that angle and getting all that real estate, staying as wide as you can, taking good care of these trailer tires so they don't off track. Now, after that, speaking of staying wide, we always want to be thinking about, not just in our turns, but in our daily drive, our lane position. We always want to be to the outside of these little lines in the road. So when we talk about lane position, what we're talking about is right here. As we're turning to the left, we want to be further to the right. And as we start to turn back to the right, we want to set up a little bit further to the left, always staying to the furthest position outside of our turn. So let's go ahead and get some footage of what that looks like. Okay, so lane position is so important out here. We always want to be practicing a good wide position in our turn. So as the road is turning right here, we're staying further to the left, and we're watching our inside convex and hood mirrors to monitor for that off tracking with that back trailer tire. Once our turn is complete, we center our steers back up into a more central lane position, and we are on our way. Okay, that was a great example of how to stay wide in all the winds of the road. Remember, you always want to stay to the outside of your turn. So if we're turning left, we're staying further to the right, but we're watching the inside of that trailer to monitor for any off tracking. So as you're turning left, you're staying further to the right, but you're looking at that left mirror to monitor your trailer. Both that convex and that hood are going to allow you to see all that trailer as it develops through that turn, and you can keep yourself out of any trailer trouble that way. Now, beyond our lane position, we also want to think about our speed control. I recommend students go 5 to 10 under whatever's posted on that test day as part of their strategy. Now, your instructor might come up with a different strategy for you, but I find this is a good way to keep ourselves in a controlled drive. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of those target speed windows for speeds you might see on your test day. Okay, the next thing I want to focus on is something I refer to as monitoring our mirrors and horizon line every 5 to 8 seconds. And this is all about information. Out here, our job is to gather as much information as we possibly can, because there are going to be times when you have to make a choice and the two options are maybe not your first choice. And the way to make that best possible choice is to have the most information present. So when I talk about your mirrors, I'm talking about watching that side mirror, that convex mirror, and that hood mirror to get all the information that's behind you as clearly as possible, that side, that convex, and that hood. And when I talk about your horizon line, I'm talking about everything you can see from the hood of that truck to that furthest position down the road. I'm talking about changes in the weather pattern, changes in the traffic pattern, changes in the grade of the road. Are we going up? Are we going down? Do we need to account for how heavy we are and make an adjustment based on that? Are we looking for clearance height signs? Or are we looking for weight limit signs? Are we looking for changes in the speed limit? All the information we can get, information, because with the best information, we can make the best choice. So let's take a look out in the field and see some of that drive and see what kind of information we can pick up. Okay, so this next one's a real easy one. I refer to it as our safe stop. And what we want here is 2 foot of visibility of either this white line at an intersection over the hood of our truck, or 2 foot of visibility of the tires of the vehicle in front of us for our stops. That's going to give us about 6 to 8 actual feet when we have 2 feet of visibility out of that hood of that truck. And that's very important for us, 6 to 8 feet, because should we get into a slide or should we be a lot heavier than we thought we were, we want to have that extra room. Here comes a very important phrase. You're going to have it for the rest of your career. It is better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. And that has everything to do with your stopping distance and your turning distances. So always err on the side of having a little bit more room, and you're going to put yourself in a much better position to make a career out of driving. So let's take a quick look at what this looks like when we come to a stop. Okay, as we are coming to our stop, we want to first get that initial safe stop done. 2 foot of visibility, 6 to 8 foot, and then we can scoot up a little bit there to make sure we're on the sensor for the intersection. Okay, great example right there of how to get those stops in. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is something that we worry about a lot out here on our test day, and that something is called impeding. And it's exactly what it sounds like, causing someone to have to slow down or stop because of something that you've done. And the place this happens the most is in these turns through our intersection. So you need to remember, it takes you 10 seconds to get through your intersection. You are not a Miata. You are not a Hyundai Sonata. You got to remember, it's going to take you a little while to get through this. So get yourself completely confident and then go confidently through your intersection, making sure you're as efficient as possible with it. And if you don't have that 10 seconds, just wait. It is better to wait for 2 minutes than to wait for 2 days to have to test again. Make sure you have that safe window before you enter the intersection. So let's head out into the field and take a quick look at what that looks like. Okay, when we are 100% confident we have a 10-second window, we go confidently. Get ourselves all the way out into our intersection. Once that nose is about halfway, big cut, and then be turning back out of your turn and try to maintain a safe, comfortable speed to efficiently get through your turn. Just like that, trailers in the lane, we cancel our signal. Okay, great example of how to make sure we have that 10-second window before we enter an intersection. That's going to keep us from that impeding, which we really want to avoid on our test day. Now, the next thing is something we're always thinking about as operators out here, and that's defensive driving scenarios. And it goes beyond just situations where you're watching for erratic or distracted drivers, but we're also looking for situations in the road that lend themselves to being problematic. And here's a perfect example right here. We have a blind, short merge lane, right? And if we are continuing through this intersection here, we need to be watching for any vehicles that might suddenly appear in that space. So we're not just looking for erratic drivers, but we're also looking for circumstances that could create problems for us. So let's take a look out into the field and just see what one of these would look like as we approach an intersection. Okay, so we saw a good example of that defensive driving situation. It looked a lot like this. It's real easy to overlook, but keep an eye out for that sort of stuff. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is not really designed to help you on your test day per se, but something you need to be thinking about as a permit holder and then as a CDL operator in your first few months, first few years, and that's how to make sure that we're driving safe and smart in all weather conditions. So anything that's going to negatively affect your traction or your visibility, you want to be making sure you bring your speed down to a comfortable speed, okay? As they say in this business, there's no load so hot that it can't cool off in a ditch. We got to drive smart and tailor your drive to your skill set. If you're in a position where your drive is not as developed as someone else's, 55 to stay alive is a great speed. Make sure you're tailoring it to the circumstances that are present. And always remember, if it's a little dicey, a little icy, you can get off the road, you can shut down. Especially here at Prime, your dispatchers are going to be more than happy to have you make the safe choice and live to fight another day, as they say. So, some basic suggestions there. Let's see if we have a clip of some suggestions or some driving scenarios there that could help us out. Okay, so with inclement weather, always keep in mind tailoring your drive like we talked about, making sure to stay safe, monitor and adjust at all times for the changing conditions that are present. Now, some basic pointers to leave with. Remember, always watch your inside convex and your hood mirror through all the off tracking of your turns and your shifts. Always watch your trailer. Very important, and that way we can make sure that we're always staying wide. And speaking of staying wide, if we're ever turning and there's 2 turn lanes, we want to be in that outermost. That's going to help us stay wide. So if there's 2 left turn lanes, we're in that right one. If there's 2 right turn lanes, we're in that left one, making sure we're watching our inside convex and our hood for any off tracking that should occur. And lastly, right lane is home lane. It kind of goes without saying as an operator that you want to stay in that right lane. Left lane is either for passing someone or if we are turning left. So other than that, it's a great place to be. Just hang out in that right lane and enjoy the ride. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of these pointers that we talked about on the next page here. Okay, that was a brief overview of the things you should be looking out for that drive section of your CDL test. Now, the next episode we're going to be moving away from that CDL test prep and into some of the daily operations you're going to see as an operator. Very excited to be moving into where the rubber finally meets the road. Now, this next episode is going to be focused primarily on setups at truck stops and backing in at different angles. I know this is on a lot of young operators' minds is how to get safely parked at night. Now, speaking of young operators on the road, we might have some footage of what that OTR life is like once you're in your own truck. Do we have any footage like that?
Oh yeah, man, I'm out here and I'm loving every minute of it. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Make sure we avoid imaginary soccer ball. Could you edit a soccer ball in here?
I could.
And then I do this, and then I do this, and I do this, and I do this, and this, 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 and that. Go! All right, you ready? Here we go.